wish I could read this.
Yeah, read that. All right, here we go. All right, I'd like to bring the Town of Wappinger Zoning Board of Appeals meeting to order. Roll call, please be.
Mr. Delacorte?
Here.
Mr. Shaw?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Valado?
Here. First order of business, acceptance of the minutes from February 14th, 2023. Everybody had a chance to review?
Yes.
Any changes, revisions?
No.
All right, can I have a motion, please, to accept the minutes as written?
I'll make a motion. I'll second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right, next order of business tonight would be adjourned public hearing, appeal number 237779, area variance. Karan Garwal seeking an area variance, section 24037 of district regulations in an R80 zoning district, where 40 feet to the side yard left property line is required. The applicant can provide 2.1 feet for the legalization of a garage and bathroom on 1.4 acres, thus requesting a variance of 37.9 feet. The property is located at 12 Schlichter Road and is identified as tax grid number 61570298695 in Town of Wappinger. Could I have a motion, please, to open the adjourned public hearing?
I make a motion to open.
A second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. So is anybody here tonight, I think there is, to speak on behalf of this application?
Our old
Just,
friend.
Yeah, just for the record, please, your name.
Yes, yes. Hello, everyone. Hello, members of the board, Town of Wappinger. My name is Nathaniel Gooden, PE. I'm principal at Caesar Engineering, and I'm representing the client, Karen Garawal, for his property at 12 Switzer Road.
All right, give a brief description for the board and anybody else who's listening, and exactly what you need and why you need it.
Yes, so with this, this is a follow-up from our previous meetings. Basically, I am asking for us to republish a variance to seek a greater variance of 0.9 feet from the property line. And this would allow Mr. Garawal to keep his wall of his home, but he will trim back the eave and projections from his home that overhang the property line.
Gotcha. Yeah, I know we've all been there more than once, I think, and seen what's going on there. It's quite a unique piece of property, as we all know, right? And the house itself, too, you got a lot going on the property. Being that it is unique, I was up there recently, too, and saw you trimmed back all the hedges, and you would get a better look of really like what's going on with your rejoinder as well. And it's very tight, you know,
Yes.
to say the least, right? You guys have any other questions for the applicant? I know we've kind of seen this a few times now.
Were we asking for a line to be exhibited physically rather than drawn, or did we?
Yeah, that's what we
did
asked
re-
for.
We did ask for that?
Right, so have some pictures or something, which is now after cleaning everything, how that looks.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with going off, you know,
The drawing.
this plan, which has the
Yeah.
.9.
Yeah.
Just simple.
But .9 wasn't published, right?
Right now, we have it advertised as 2.1 feet.
2.1 feet, yeah.
Which is the back of the garage,
That would be
not the
taking
front.
off the eave.
Well, that would be taken off the front wall of the
Yes,
garage.
it would be going back to the
Front
back
side
wall.
Right, and so it was at the last meeting, I believe the gentleman asked to just take off the gutter to keep it at the .9 that you have in the backside.
Yes,
Yeah, so the wall is .9,
yes,
which I understand why you would want, you know, then need to move the electrical meter. Saves a lot of interior work.
yes, we would have to move the foundation and everything to keep it in line with the bathroom, so.
All right.
So,
So if I'm understanding this correctly, then the 2.1 feet is not correct.
That was what we were asked to advertise it 2 months ago, before all the snow.
Yes,
And then at the last meeting, which was his public hearing,
Mhm.
we then talked about possibly the .9. You hadn't voted on anything, so if you are inclined to go that way, it would have to be republished again. You can always go big, smaller,
Small,
but this
right.
actually makes this variance larger.
All right, gotcha. So all right, so then if we were gonna go that route, and that's what you actually need, right?
yes,
Right, then we would have to republish, correct? And then we would have to adjourn the public hearing again.
It would be a new public hearing, but I would adjourn this to a date certain and just advertise with the new numbers as an amended adjourned public
so
hearing.
we,
Okay.
so we can vote for 2.1 now, or publish.
yes,
Well, we could vote,
Right.
we could vote it in 2.1 for you.
Right,
But I'm personally would be for approving the .9, which I'm allowed to say. So, I mean, if you
wait.
chose to republish for the next public hearing.
Yeah, the 2.1 really doesn't get you there, right?
no. So I would prefer to republish and go for the vote of the .9.
To go that route. So I'm in agreement with you. I think that's probably the best course of action. So officially then, Barbara, we would,
Less cost.
go ahead,
Then
I'm
I
sorry.
would just motion to have him republish at the .9.
Okay. So,
And then we'll take care of that for the next meeting.
Okay,
all right, so then I'll make a motion then that you would,
Yeah.
that we republish, right, for the .9, and schedule another public hearing that we would do.
And then just adjourn this one to April 11th.
All right,
Second.
right, so we'll adjourn to the April 11th meeting?
Yes.
April 11th meeting. And I made a motion now to republish. We need a second.
Tom did.
Tom,
Tom did
Yeah.
a second, okay. All favor?
aye.
All right, so moved. So we'll do that then, okay? And then we'll see you again on the 11th.
Okay.
Okay?
So for the record, you've made a motion and second to adjourn to April 11th and to republish with the number .9 feet from the side.
Correct.
Yes, he does.
Yes.
You understand that?
Yes, we'll take care of those actions before the next meeting.
All right, perfect. We'll see you then.
Thank you all.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
All right, next item on the agenda tonight is a public hearing, appeal number 227770, area variance, Joseph and Dina White, seeking an area variance, section 24037 and 24053B4 of district regulations in an R40 zone district, where an accessory apartment cannot exceed 35% or 1,000 square feet maximum. The applicant is proposing to add an accessory apartment addition of 1,427 square feet on 1.3 acres, thus requesting a variance of 427 square feet. The property is located at 63 Gold Road and is identified as tax grid number 6358030033388 in the town of Wappinger. Could I have a motion, please, to open the public hearing?
I make a motion to open
Second.
public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right. So for the benefit of the board and everybody else who might be listening in, just get a brief description of what you need and why you need it.
Brian Stokosa, Dane Stokosa Engineering. I'm here with the applicant, Joe White, tonight, and we've been in front of the board a couple of times discussing the application. We have an existing house located on Gold Road. There's an existing pool in the backyard, and what the applicant would like to do is create an accessory apartment for himself. They have a grandchild that's on the way, that's coming, and going through the code in the town of Wappinger is looking for an accessory apartment. They've since sold the house to their daughter, and they will hopefully be moving into an accessory apartment, which is next to the house. We had a site visit out to the house with the board. We walked the area. We're not seeking any additional variances other than the size of the addition. We don't need any setbacks or anything from the side yards. And looking at the house, we tried to keep the addition in unison with the existing house. It's a split level. And I think we even, at the last meeting, talked about, what happens when, God forbid, anything happens to the parents, that they're no longer on site. What are you gonna do with the space? And I think that was a big part of our discussion at the last meeting. So what we did is we came up with a restoration plan to show how we're going to convert that unit back, and just reconfiguring some of the items inside the house. They're gonna convert it into basically a pool house to support the pool that's already there. They are a very active family.
You sure? You start from the beginning? No.
You don't wanna hear that again. I don't. We both got in trouble now. But basically, we came up with a plan that's part of the record, that there is some kind of checks and balances, that, here is what has to be done when this has to be, converted back. So we came up with this plan. We discussed it at the site visit. And again, the intention is, at the end of the day, is to convert it back to a pool house for the kids to use. That's the real updates that we have from the board. Discuss the size of the dwelling on site, and, the applicant has been a lifelong resident. They are a local business owner. They have a lot of things, so they feel that the size of the addition, although a little bit excessive of what the code says, they would like to see if they have the ability to keep that square footage. And if there's any questions from the board, we do have the applicants here today to speak.
If you guys have any questions, I'm gonna look at the plan just to refamiliarize myself a little bit. It's been a little while.
I think we had asked if it was possible to eliminate any square footage. I think in site we discussed potentially the loft as a possible element that could be eliminated. Is that still on the table on your end, or is that?
Fine with you, Brian, I don't know if it's okay.
Well, at this point, I don't see the approval of anything in the square lot, so, I mean, if that's the case, that the law has to be, I mean, if that's the case that the law, I mean, I would love it if I could keep the loft, but if I can't, I just need to move forward with
Yeah,
whatever.
I mean, it's a substantial variance. We were just trying to, you know, get it as,
I'd
less
rather the
substantial as
loft be taken
possible.
off than anything on the bottom,
yeah.
because
If
I
it's a
really.
deal breaker, we'll take off the law.
What would be the reduction if you did remove the loft, you know?
I think we were was it 250, I believe, it's just a hair over 200. I believe that's the number we were throwing around at the site visit.
So instead of 1427, it would be,
1227?
Change.
Yeah.
We actually.
I'll double check it, I may have it listed on here.
did you make up a plan, Brian, for, without,
The
Loft?
restoration plan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
no?
Oh, no, with the loft, no, not shown, but just,
Without
you know,
loft.
if you're picturing, looking at the house, it's just
Yeah.
that top window's gone.
Okay.
You know, much of that roof line would remain, it'd just be attic space.
So the frontage will not be there, right?
Brian, what's the,
I was thinking it would be the same, yeah.
Yeah, that will be replaced, removed.
Would you take that window out that you have at the loft, or would you just leave that in and have it be open on the below?
False
Yes,
frame it.
the homeowner, our son-in-law, he would like to keep them.
Yeah.
You talking about the window in the front?
Yeah,
yeah, the top
the one in the
Just-
triangle. I think it makes sense
It would just be
aesthetically,
for
we'll probably
lofts.
leave it, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a set of stairs also that would be,
We wouldn't need it if there wasn't a loft. We have more dining.
so more or less one story.
So you're real, increase your useful space downstairs.
Right. It helps us.
No, it's just true.
It's a good argument.
Trying to figure out what the existing square footage is for the existing building.
As far as the window goes,
Are you able to give us a precise number of what it would be if that was removed?
kind of need to know that.
The square foot does change if we are changing only second floor. Putting only
I think if I'm reading this right, so the loft area consisted of a loft area looking below, but then we also had provisions for attic storage. So I think if you look at the actual loft space, it's measuring 16 by 14, so in actuality, it's probably not as much as I originally quoted. So we're probably a hair over, you know,
So 16 by 14.
16 by 14 is what you're gonna lose. Because everything else was attic, and that wasn't considered attic.
224.
So it's a reduction of 224.
that's about what you said though, right?
Yeah.
Around 10.
Brian, what's the square footage of the existing house?
Yeah,
I think I had it on my application.
it's 3,037 square feet, and the addition was 1,427, for a total of 4,464.
So,
Are you concerned we're at that 35%?
35% of that number's 1,083.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not, you know, the difference, the cap of 1,000 and 35% is not a huge difference.
No.
It's essentially the same variance.
Yeah,
We're looking
I
at-
mean, the reason why the 35% is there is that, for purposes of an accessory use, it has to be subservient to the principal use. And the general rule of thumb is if it's less than 50%, it's an accessory use. Once you start, like if I have a house with an accessory apartment that's at 50%, it's now a two-family house. So, you know, the legislative determination there is 35% is an accessory apartment rather than a two-family house. So that's the rationale for the 35%.
Thank you, Jim.
So we'd be at 1203?
So you'd be at 1203. So then it's a 203 square foot variance is what you'd be looking at. That's something you guys are amenable to?
I think we're at the point of, we need to
Move forward.
move this forward. or else there could be-
Move it forward. We won't have a family anymore. Too many people. Can't
Understood.
afford anymore.
Okay. Did you guys have any other questions?
So what's our final number for the square?
It would be,
12?
their total square footage would be 1203, so they'd be looking for a 203 square foot variance. Got it.
Thank you.
Got it. You guys have any other questions?
No. Did we see the plan how they convert back? How they are going to convert back to like,
I think it was more of a description that it would become a pool house.
Yeah,
oh, I see.
yeah,
Pool house, okay.
yeah.
Nice.
That'd be
A
pretty
very,
nice.
a very nice pool house.
Right.
We're not going anywhere anytime
It'd be really nice.
Okay,
Yeah, oh,
that's
if there's any other questions, anybody in the audience have any questions for the applicant on this application? Okay. All right, then can I have a motion, please, to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion that we close.
Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right, could I have a motion then, please, to grant or deny the applicant the variance based on the modifications that we just made? I will make a motion to grant the applicant the variance, based on the, changes we just made, right? So your total square footage will then be 1,203 square feet. Right, the variance you're looking for is a 203 square foot variance. And that is what I am approving. I don't believe the benefit can be achieved by any other feasible means. No undesirable change to the neighborhood or detriment to surrounding properties. The request is substantial, however, not enough for me to change my vote. The request will not have any adverse physical or environmental effects, and the difficulty is self-created. All that said, I am voting to grant the applicant the variance as modified. I have a second.
Second.
Roll call.
I have a question. Did we never ask the applicant if we only have 4 votes tonight, or do they still want to proceed with?
Right, you know, that's, sorry, I neglected to tell you this one thing, is since there's not a full board tonight, right, there's 4 members. So a tie vote is considered a denial, but a majority vote, of course, would be, you know, one way or the other. So you have the choice of coming back again when there's a full board and there wouldn't be that stipulation, or you could just move forward on tonight.
Moving forward means we move forward,
Okay.
right?
Is there the possibility of a preliminary vote?
See,
Jim?
to get a flavor,
You mean read the room?
probably not.
Jim?
I mean, does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
I do not. I've heard all I need to hear.
Right.
I'm comfortable with what you've said.
So am I.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So we'll move forward officially. All right, so I'm gonna start this again. B, we'll have a roll call.
Mr. Davenport,
Yes.
Mr. Shaw,
Yes.
Mr. Moore,
Yes.
Mr. Delarge.
Yes. So your variance has been granted.
Thank you, guys.
You're all set.
Appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item up on the agenda. Appeal number 237780, area variance. Ketchum Town Land Development LLC, Dylan Aguado, Garth Boston, and Kathleen Patrick seeking an area variance, section, 24037 and 24020.b of district regulations in an R40 zoning district, where 50 feet wide flag lot access strip to street frontage is required. The applicant can provide a minimum of 36 feet for a proposed subdivision and a lot line realignment, thus requesting a variance of 14 feet. Where 25 feet to the side yard property line is required, the applicant can provide 3 feet for a proposed subdivision and a lot line realignment, thus requesting a variance of 22 feet. The property is located at Ketchum Town Road and 86 Ketchum Town Road, and identified as tax grid numbers 615703070 275, 34.4 acres, and 615703150 2.0 acres in the town of Wappinger. Can I have a motion, please, to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to open.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Okay.
Good
So
evening.
you are representing the applicant tonight.
I am. My name is Allison Fausner. I'm an associate with the law firm Cuddy and Fader, and I'm appearing on behalf of the applicants, the Bosmans. Garth Bosman is with me tonight, and Dylan Aguado. They're the property owners for the properties on Ketchum Town Road, the unnumbered one, and 86 Ketchum Town Road.
Gotcha.
So what led us to here, we were here before you on February 14th, Valentine's Day, for our preliminary discussion. We're requesting 2 area variances related to side yard setback and the flag lot width related to the 2 proposed flag lots. So this application is a result of a pending application before the planning board to subdivide the Aguado parcel, which you'll see here. You have 2 lots being subdivided from the existing Aguado parcel, and you have the Bosman parcel right here. The subdivision application also includes I don't want to get yelled at, also includes a lot line realignment, and that's to include the lands underlying the existing garage to be included with the Bosman parcel. This is a garage that has existed for almost 100 years now, Garth, and this, we have an existing easement to the lands underlying the garage and surrounding the garage. This recorded agreement that's kind of underlying this application arose out of adverse possession lawsuit between the Bosmans and Aguado's predecessor in interest. This provided the easement to the lands underlying the garage and also provided for an opportunity for Garth to actually purchase the property upon development of the Aguado parcel, which is being provided here and which is currently before the planning board. So when you look at the 2 area variances, it's related to the side yard setback surrounding the garage. We have a 3-foot barrier around that existing garage, and we also have approximately 5% of that flag lot, which will be non-conforming. That'll be the minimum 36 feet that we're providing there.
Gotcha. We've been to the property multiple times, actually, in the last few years. Oh, yeah,
One
right.
time's enough.
Right, Tom keeps reminding me, and I remind you as well, that, because it's a 4-member board tonight, right, a tie vote would be a denial, considered denial. Your option to move forward or postpone to the next meeting if you'd like. Again, totally up to you.
We're okay to move forward.
What's that?
We're okay to move forward.
Okay, all right.
Thank you, Pete.
So, I'm not sure, thank you, Tom. I should take it a quick look, refamiliarize again myself. Seems like forever since we've been here. Just pull that out. If you guys have any questions in the interim.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only question I have is there a reason to be so tight to the sides? It seems like you could give more space to the sides of the garage potentially?
Oh, for the 3 feet? So that was
Yeah.
related to the actual use of the property during the adverse possession lawsuit. That's what had been continuously used for a period of time, and so that's what the agreement is related to. To expand beyond it would then have to have a renegotiation between the applicants here for the conveyance and for the amount of money related.
Has there been
to
any
it.
discussion around that? I mean, it seems like you know, it's a very oddly shaped lot, and, you know, the side yard setbacks are essentially non-existent now.
There were discussions.
Yeah.
Regarding, you know, reconfiguring, possibly relocating, but based on, you know, one of the things is there's quite a bit of wetlands toward the back of the property, toward the back of the Bozeman property. So, we're kind of limited as to where it could be placed. I know the engineers looked at relocating the garage. That was kind of one of the things that was discussed, to make it less of an issue, but, and with respect to the settlement, so that was a settlement in an adverse possession action, and it created an easement with a right to purchase, as was noted. Under our code, there was no requirement for the town to approve the easement. So, you know, so there was, and, you know, the parties basically agreed that rather than have the garage there with a property line and an easement, it would be more of a final matter to resolve it globally and convert the easement into fee title to the Bozeman's. So there was a pre-existing legal right to use, and the agreement only called for 3 feet because of, you know, adverse possession, and that was the negotiated settlement between Bozeman and the prior owner. And then Mr. Aguado has subsequently purchased it. So, I think
I think the one, still I'm not clear about that existing garage, that property if it's purchased by applicant and have that place, garage place inside the neighbor's property, right place, it will be a lot easier and straightforward for, even for future. Did you have think about that? Okay, buying that garage property and making part of your property now, so that like buy off and give them garage or something in their property area. So your plan becomes straightforward. You will not need easement, but also in future, it looks like nice and straightforward.
So,
I think I understand what you're saying.
So you have entertained that?
In other words, sell the easement rights so that the easement doesn't exist any longer.
Right, yeah, okay.
And it's a straight
Yes.
property line, is that what you're saying?
Yes, exactly,
Right,
yeah.
So we did offer that,
And it did not work out.
and they declined.
Oh.
but you keep the garage no matter what.
No,
No, if we were to sell the easement rights, they can
No,
knock it
but I
down.
mean, if you don't sell anything, the garage is still yours.
correct.
Right.
technically, yes.
So if we vote no on this, what would happen?
They couldn't build the 2 homes.
No, well, there was an issue basically related to whether or not the shared driveway, and again, the code has a provision that requires a 50-foot wide driveway easement, or, I'm sorry, 50 feet wide of fee title on a shared driveway. It doesn't require a 50-foot wide driveway.
Yeah, so if we vote yes on the reduction in the flag lot and voted no on the setbacks around the garage, what would the outcome of that be?
What the outcome of that would be that the garage would remain on the property with an easement rather than fee title to the
Okay, so it would
Bozeman.
remain essentially as an easement,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, I don't think that extinguishes the easement. Now, what effect that has on the development of the Aguado property, I mean, in order to develop the Aguado property, the only thing they would need would be the easement for, the variance for the shared driveway. Which again is realistically just it's an easement in essence on paper. Because it's not, the shared driveway there's only one driveway being built. There wouldn't, 2 driveways don't have to be constructed. And this is a provision in our code to satisfy, two ADA requirements, meaning that each lot, in order to get a building permit, a lot has to have access on a public highway, be it a county, state, or, town road. And in some respects, and there's been some question over the years, as to what that 50-foot frontage, means, but with respect to an application that happened probably 10 years ago now,
Which one?
Smart.
Oh, yeah. But they received variances.
Right, but, so that was the precedent for this, and what had happened was, it was a somewhat similar situation, but, what happened was they wanted to keep rather than an existing garage, they wanted to keep an existing house to get access to riverfront property around the back, and this property was just north to south of the Chelsea pump station on River Road. And in that case, what happened was, there was a 50-foot right-of-way until you got close to the house, and then the right-of-way had to neck down in order to keep the existing house. Tom, I think, probably remembers that. But, so it was a similar type of application.
I mean, I'm not personally opposed to the 36-foot, you know, I think that's fine, you know, given the shared driveway. You know, it's, in some respects, it feels wider inherently. But, you know, I would have liked to see more space on the sides of the barn, but if that's not an option because it's been discussed and not agreed to, okay.
Yeah, so I mean, and that's kind of, again, that was, you know, I don't think there was really, at the time that settlement was negotiated on an adverse possession, there was, nobody took the setback into account, which, you know, in hindsight probably should have been contemplated. But, there was, you know, I know the engineers had looked at, the location of the driveway, and, snow plowing. So one of the issues is at least the setback from the driveway. To that end, you know, there was some discussion between the engineers for the Bozeman's and engineers for Aguado as far as how much, area would be, how much distance between the driveway to make, you know, sufficient area to pile snow. Should it be, the variance be granted, and I believe there's also some drainage provisions in there as well, so.
Yeah, there's also site grading that leads right up to the 3-foot buffer area, which has been worked out because the common driveway needs to make sure that it's in the middle and it's not interrupting any of the wetlands in the back. So the location where it's at, the grading leads right into the 3-foot where it'll then turn into the Bosman's property. So they made sure they engineered it so it prevented it from going into that 3-foot buffer. And this is also an effort to clear up some of the title issues related to the property, because when Aguado purchased the property, his title report didn't show this easement, although it was recorded. So by then converting it and conveying it to the Bosmans to have that formally part of their property and recorded on a subdivision plat, it will clean up a lot of those issues, prevent any issues from the Bosmans once these lots are sold to the future homeowners.
Yeah, a lot of history there. Yeah. Any other questions, you guys?
No.
No more questions? All right, then. Anybody in the audience have any comments or questions regarding this application? No? Okay, I have a motion then, please, to close the public hearing.
I'll make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. All right, could I have a motion then to grant or deny the applicant the variance? Variances.
So I guess the first question is, does the board want to proceed on each variance separately or on the variances together? Based on a comment that was previously.
I think they're inherently related.
Yeah.
You can't really do one without the other,
Okay.
right?
I mean, you raised the issue, so I just wanted to make sure that,
I agree. I think, yeah, vote
Okay.
on them together would be fine. All right, so then, I have a motion that, motion then please to deny or grant the applicant the variance. Okay, I will, move to grant the applicant the variances. I don't believe that the benefit can be achieved by any other feasible means. This property has, as mentioned, a substantial amount of history with it, right? Will not create any undesirable effects to the neighborhood. The variances are substantial in nature, but not enough for me to change my decision. There'll be no adverse or physical effects to the neighborhood. And the difficulty, it's interesting, is self-created or not self-created. This shed has been here a long time. I don't believe that the difficulty is self-created. So based on that, then I would move to grant the applicant both the variances. Have a second, please.
I second.
And roll call?
Mr. Delacorte?
No.
Mr. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Flores?
Yes.
Yes. Right, so your variances have been granted.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So,
Have a great
Have a
night.
good night. All righty, next up on the agenda would be discussion, appeal number 237781, area variance. Melissa Rowe and Kevin White. At the request of the owners, Melissa Rowe and Kevin White, Steer Subdivision Lot 3, who are seeking an area variance section 24020 of district regulations in an R40 zoning district. Whereas section 24020, access to a lot shall be over existing frontage of a street or highway, the applicant proposes access from a rear of property over a paper road. The property is located on Forest View and Pine Ridge Drive and is identified as tax grid number 625602-800-965 in the town of Wappingers. This property is known as Steer Subdivision Lot 3. Anybody here tonight to speak on behalf? Please step up to the microphone. And for the record, your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name's Melissa Rowe. My husband Kevin White. We currently live at 39 Sherwood Forest in Wappingers Falls, but we are hoping to build a home in Wappingers Falls on Forest View Road. We purchased a plot of land that lies between Forest View Road and Pine Ridge Drive. Pine Ridge Drive substantially lower, Forest View above. There's two other properties on the road that have requested and granted variances to switch their driveway from the original zoned side of Pine Ridge up to Forest View. There's a couple of reasons that we're not able to place it where it was originally zoned. Since other homes have built and developed nearby, there's actually only one very small area where a septic system can be placed, and the original plan for the driveway goes directly over it and also calls for a very steep grade. So we're really hoping that we can have the driveway switched over to come off of Forest View like the other homes in the parcel so that we can proceed with building our home.
Gotcha.
I have a question. I have a question.
Go ahead.
When you purchased the property, did you know about this?
We did not. The septic plan that we received actually had a proposed driveway site where we planned on having it done. So we worked off of that plan, and also the person who sold us the property didn't realize that it had been rezoned that way either.
Okay.
And then we had the entire home designed and, had the architect and everything based on it, where we're hoping to place it.
Okay.
The original owner of this property, was the first to buy of a 4-lot subdivision. When they first bought the property, the additional 3 lots had not been subdivided. So to grant her the opportunity to buy the second lot so that she could, in hopes someday, build a house for her daughter. They subdivided the additional 3 lots. In that process, they made the driveways come off of Pine Ridge Drive, which is down the hill, which is a significant gradient there, rather than coming off the top, which is fairly flat. Once the 2 houses at the end of this access road were made, they actually granted that access road to be made and the variances for those homes being granted.
Okay. It's a Cedar Hill, right, up in Cedar Hill?
Yeah, there's always some topo up there.
Cedar Hill.
You guys have any other questions? No. Okay, I don't either. It's fairly straightforward. What we usually do is a site visit, right, to the home. We usually do that, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday, which would be, which one? Will be April 8th. We'll probably be there around 9 o'clock on the 8th.
Would you like for us to be there for it?
If you could be,
We'd be happy to.
yeah, that would be great.
Yeah.
9
It's-
a.m. April 8th.
Stake out maybe where, yeah, that's what I
We
meant to
can do that roughly. We do plan to have it marked by a surveyor, but we wanted to make sure that we can build before we
Yeah,
invest
we
any
go
more
through that
heavily.
expense, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, you know, approximately fine for all intent and purposes, for our purposes now.
So,
Be good.
so if I may for the board,
Yes.
there's, the road on the rear, which is now called Forest View, has had different names over the years. The subdivision plat for Steers shows it as Moore, M-A-U-R-E-R Terrace. So the roads in that area were mapped out, and we've been looking for years for the deeds.
For what?
they're-
For what, Jim?
For the deeds
Oh.
to the roadbed. It's they've never been recorded, as far as I can tell, with the county clerk's office. So they have remained as paper roads. We had a similar application, dealing with Dugan Lane. I forgot the property owner's name. Begun with an I. Indorf was the property owner, was the developer who purchased the lot and built a house on it. And one of the issues here is that, Forest View, over the recent years, there's been complaints about the condition of the road, by the people who live there and had, purchased, I believe it's from the lot owner furthest toward the very end of Forest View. You know, and I had done substantial investigation regarding, title in Forest View and the status. And for that property, there was, a variance was granted and there was a declaration, regarding I believe it was the maintenance of the road. I'll have to pull that document, but,
Wasn't that what Angela Ginsberg, and she
Yes.
developed the,
right.
and they had to do a maintenance agreement.
Right, so there is a maintenance agreement, with respect to the other lots. Don't believe it's been actually followed, because the maintenance really hasn't been done. But that's one of the conditions that I think might be appropriate, is that, you know, the property owner here, negotiate with the person who has the, maintenance agreement for the maintenance of that road, to split the costs. You know, the other option, which, you know, I had given to people, was that, the road be improved and dedicated to the town. But, you know, that's probably a more substantial cost, improving it to town highway standards. But that was, you know, when the road was, I mean, you know, originally, this was mapped to go out, Pine Ridge makes a lot of turns, so it actually it's parallel to Pine Ridge, and then it intersects with Pine Ridge later on. But, and I know there were some discussions at that point, but again, a lot of these paper roads in that area are actually used as driveways and don't connect in the road plan. So,
So Jim, Forest View is not approved?
Forest View is a town road up until the first lot, in the end of the first lot of the subdivision. So the first, and there is a cul-de-sac per se. I don't know if it's actually,
Where the road ends, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean, so that's where the town maintenance ends. And then,
This maintenance agreement, that's on file someplace that we would be able to see?
Say that again?
The maintenance agreement is on file someplace?
Yeah, we can pull that out, we'll pull that out, because I had written, like I said, I had written a memo to the town board.
Because you propose that would be basically adjusted, and they would have some stake in
Yeah,
that?
yeah, I mean, and I think that would help, I mean, should the board contemplate granting this, it would, you know, it would help out these owners as well as, you know, the other owners. And I guess, and I think, so there's, is the middle, did Ginsburg go up to 2?
There's, what, 2 houses after your lot, correct?
That's correct.
So it's those 2 and probably the one before them.
Yeah, but that one I think has a driveway right out onto
Angela,
Forest
I
View.
think, she might have owned this lot. She looked at 3 and only built 2.
The first house is the original owner that is connected to that main forest view, yeah.
So then Angela had the 3,
Right.
built 2.
Gotcha. But I think that, you know,
is that Forest View Terrace?
I think it's just called Forest View.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get, have we been out to that area before?
Not over here. You've been out to like Thornton and Coughlin, and there's a whole bunch of roads
Right.
in and around there, but I don't, unless you were at somebody on Forest View, but up further where it first comes in. You haven't
Well, the
been
other,
this way.
who was the ones where they had the paper road that was in the middle and there was a variance? Because that's where, I guess, is that the stretch of Thornton there that's got,
You can't
we
get
had the
to that from
garage that
here.
was, yeah. No, you can't get to a
Yeah,
lot.
there's
of
been a
places.
lot of variances over there, but you have a lot of roads that intersect. You can get lost back there. if you
Mhm.
go.
Yeah.
You can go in circles.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah, you could.
this place.
All right, so,
I just trying to get an idea where it was,
Gotcha.
that's all. So, on this map here, I don't really have a good layout in my brain where this is. This got a road here, it says Forest View.
So,
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
You're gonna need the map first on your phone.
So basically, this is where the developed
To
road
find it.
ends.
I bet
and
it'd
this is
screw
where
you
the
up.
Access road begins, so we're roughly.
Because you gotta go in Forest View, come all the way in, that's the only way you can get in.
Into that shared driveway that keeps going on.
Okay.
And then the house will be set back appropriately. This is the property line. This is Bonnie Chrisman, who we bought the property from, who originally owned it. And then down this kind of steeper grade, down here would be the,
Now, when I
Pine
was
Ridge.
looking at that,
Okay.
wait a minute.
Okay, so
There's 2 additional properties here and here.
you get coming this way, that's how you get here.
Yeah, it's up here.
Okay.
This would be the access road ending right around here. We have about 100 feet worth of shared access road before this driveway.
The original plan kind of had it winding up this way, but this is where the
Okay.
septic has to be.
And then
Okay.
does a switch back around there.
This road supposed to run into Pine View over here somewhere?
If you look at it,
Supposed to,
like
right?
a Google Maps, that I'm sure you're looking at, it almost looks like it connects, but it doesn't.
Gotcha.
Speaking of which,
So this is the original subdivision plat. Okay, and this is their lot here. Okay, so this is the first lot, and then these 2 lots, this was the first lot that was developed, and these 2 lots were proposed separately. There was I know there's a maintenance agreement for this lot, I'm not sure about this lot. But I believe there is. So anyway, this is the lot that they're looking at, and, you know, the original subdivision had all the driveways going over down to Pine Ridge Drive. So they're looking to existing, so the cul-de-sac for town maintenance is around here.
Oh.
And there's a driveway, I don't know if this is actually where the driveway ends or not, but,
It essentially ends at her property line
Yeah.
here, and then just
so then,
turns into the easement right there.
right, so then this is just a paper road that they use, because the deed, like I said, the deed lines for all the properties in there, so, the original developer technically, I guess, still has, and it'd be a title may have fine, but I think the original developer still owns title to the,
This
the
is
title to the
Mauer.
land.
Mauer was a builder, I believe.
Yeah, one of them. And then, so yeah, and you know, unfortunately, a lot of these roads back in there, at Thornton Terrace, I think that was the one where it went up and it was, in the middle of the road is a gully. That was the one where the Costa wanted to put in, I think it was Costa.
Yeah. Costa's up there too, yeah.
Yep, and he had,
He had a paper road going through.
paper road going
Yeah.
through and he needed a variance to put in a garage.
Next to Mauer, yeah, I
Next-
remember that.
yeah.
That's right, that's why this is all starting to ring a bell, okay.
So they're
This is
all,
right below
that's,
this.
that's a little bit,
What's that?
that's a
They're
little
right
bit up
below
there.
Yes,
But they're all,
I remember now,
so that's,
Okay.
like I said, it's,
I get it.
and for the same reason why they're asking for the driveway up there is why these people all ask. You know, you can see on the contours how big the garage is.
Yeah. Very good, thank you, Jim.
Sorry about that, guys. No worries. All right, so just to recap then, we're gonna do a site visit on the 8th. We'll be there around 9 o'clock. We'll schedule your public hearing for the meeting after that, which would be the 11th, 4/11. So we'll schedule your public hearing on 4/11, and we'll see you on the 8th.
Thank you very much.
All
Thank
set?
you.
Have a good
Thank
night.
you. All right, next up on the agenda, we get some water soon, I think, is appeal number 237782, area variance, Brian Dufresne? Dufresne?
Dufresne.
Dufresne. Andy, you know who Andy Dufresne is?
My uncle.
It's probably not the same Andy I'm thinking about. I don't know if anybody who knows Andy Dufresne is. Anyway, seeking an area variance, section 24037 of district regulations in an R20 zoning district, where 40 feet to the rear yard property line is required, the applicant can provide 38.58 feet for the construction of a new house on 0.58 acres, thus requesting a variance of 1.42 feet. The property is located at 127 Chelsea Road and is identified as tax grid number 605603461483 in the town of Wappinger. For your name, please, and address for the record.
My name is Brian Dufresne, I'll use the address of 127 Chelsea Road.
Wonderful. Could you please, for the board and anybody else might be listening in, what you need and why you need it briefly?
So I need a 1.4-foot rear setback variance out of 40 foot, and I need that. I am the owner builder, and I had an error in method in staking the foundation when it was dug. So I could have had it staked by a surveyor, but I chose to use the existing property markers to measure out the location, which I now know to be wrong.
You're not the first.
Yep.
So, okay, so this is a proposed structure, right?
Well, it's up.
The structure's almost finished,
It's almost done.
just about.
Gotcha. All right, Chelsea Road. I mean, pretty straightforward, I think. You know, no smoking guns here. You guys have any questions? No, you guys?
Is the property ever surveyed?
Currently.
Currently being surveyed.
Now it's surveyed, yep.
So you'll be able to provide a marker for the property line for us?
The property corner nearest is marked.
Okay.
Gotcha.
That's where the error is in the corner?
Yeah, it's very
It was,
close.
there was an existing fence post that I was assuming to be the corner previously.
Yeah, it looks like the property kind of runs at a skew, so.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty straightforward. You guys have any other questions?
Oh, the barn and garage that go with it, that's already there also, right?
Yes.
The garage is
That was
pre-existing,
existing.
non-conforming.
Pre-existing, non-conforming. Okay, thank you, Barbara.
So with that, what's the subject to the?
All right, so what we will do is we will do a site visit at your place on that same date, on 4/8. We'll probably be there around 9:20 or so.
For the 8th, can I make a request for later in the morning, closer to noon time? It's a tough day for me.
Well, you
You
don't
guys-
necessarily
you guys
have to
have
be
your-
there.
Yeah.
You don't have to be there.
Okay, if you guys have a list of site visits that you're making, can I request to be pushed towards the end of it?
Yeah, sure. I mean, we're probably doing 3 or 4 that day, but we'll probably latest we'll get there will probably be around 10:30.
That would be appreciated.
And again, if that doesn't work for you, you don't necessarily have to be there.
No, 10:30 is
We
fine.
have the markers. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So then we'll be at your house around 10:30. You know, we'll do the other site visits first.
Appreciate it.
Okay? So that's on 4/8,
4847.
and we will schedule your public hearing for the 11th as well, 4/11. And that'll do it. And B has a sign for you.
All right.
So, I just one question. Do you know the square footage of the barn?
Very roughly, something to the tune of 30 by 40.
Okay. So that's the regular, so it's not accessory setback.
Right, and that, and the time, it was only 10 foot in both directions, and there was no size.
Because the only thing I'm thinking about is the barn right now the setbacks are non-conforming. He does not have to ask for a variance at this point in time. But should the barn be destroyed, it would have to be rebuilt in accordance with the setbacks, the 40-foot setback. So I guess my question is, if you'd also want to look at that as part of the application.
Meaning, Jim, that when we look at this property, we look at the property also stipulating what you just said.
So right now, he's only asking for the 1.42 for the new house.
New house.
But the way our code is written, the barn can remain. However, if the barn is destroyed or they want to go in and, do work in the future, and tear it down and put up new, then the grandfathering of that setback is no longer in
Goes
place.
away.
It would save you having to do this again.
So we could just add that as a second variance. You don't have to do anything. We'll add it in the office tomorrow. We'll change the public hearing notice to reflect that.
So actually
And
size
that,
also,
that he would be asking you to grant both variances.
And save you the trouble.
And we've done that with other legal nonconformities, like we just did with the shed, when I noticed it with the pool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I would like to do that.
Okay. And it'll save you the trouble of coming back in the future.
Right.
And
So
B has a sign.
one other thing, Mr. Dufresne, you said you were gonna have the line marked, or not just the post, though, you're gonna have a line for us, right?
The rear corner has a stake in the ground.
Okay, so what we're gonna need is a line, so we can measure from the rear of your property, the corner of the house, to the line.
so
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, the most recent survey is a foundation survey that has that mark. It was measured by the surveyor from the rear line to the rear of the property.
okay,
So the
Wanna remeasure
dimensions
it?
we got are from the surveyor.
okay,
Got it.
but we'll need to prove it. So we'd like to see a line there when we come out. It doesn't have to be all the way across, but if we have something that we could look and say, okay, it's
I'll
gonna
set
go
something.
to here,
I'll set something up.
thank
for
you.
Okay. All right, so we'll see you on the 8th and on the 11th. Renee has a sign for you.
Thank you very much.
You got it. All right, next up on the agenda, appeal number 237783, area variance, Michael Sims, seeking an area variance, section 24037 of district regulations in an R20 zoning district, where 35 feet to the front yard property line is required. The applicant can provide 30.9 feet for a 19 by 20 bedroom addition, an electric and full bathroom on .51 acres, thus requesting a variance of 4.1 feet. The property is located at 30 Kent Road and is identified as tax grid number 625803-310026 in the town of Wappinger. Welcome to the microphone.
Thanks.
Please, your name and address, please.
Michael Sims, 30 Kent Road, Wappingers.
Gotcha. All right, so you probably know, a brief description of what you need and why you need it.
Yes, so I am looking to add on a third bedroom for my family. And we just are looking to tie into the existing house and go back, not out. Unfortunately, 5 feet of my house is over the line, so I'm not looking to expand that any further. I'm just looking to tie in and go back where I am within the offsets.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
So in other words, the line of the house will follow back.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I have a couple pictures I took, if that would be helpful to you guys, if you.
Is the line of the existing house, go straight back.
Question on this. We're talking about this line here, correct?
R15 is 30. R20 is 30.
So it's this wall, correct? Yes, so this is, say this is, the existing, just looking to go, back.
Is this existing or new?
That is new.
Okay, because I think we would actually have to do the variance to that,
Now,
right? Because it's
that
elevated
is
steps.
the deck, right? That's the stair, all right, that's basically the entrance.
That would be a side entrance, if I got a few pictures, they're not great, but, just kind of give you guys this idea. Side of the house,
Yep.
look, that's the line, basically.
Yep.
And again, I'm sorry, that's it, that's all I'm looking to do, is just tie straight into here, go back, 19 feet, and then cut across 20 feet,
Yeah.
and tie back into the house.
Now, Barbara?
Yes.
So the steps he's showing there, the variance would be to the steps or to the house?
So,
I think the steps are, correct me if I'm wrong, but these steps you're proposing are kind of here, right? Off to the side?
Yeah, so this wraps around into my backyard, this is actually on the side.
So the steps going that way?
Like if it's to this,
Steps going
where are
this
the
way.
steps on here?
The steps here go to, I have a small deck that wraps around into that little,
yeah, but if you had to draw them on the plan, where would they
Where are
be?
the steps coming out of this addition?
the new addition that would be on this side.
Okay,
right
so
here.
then that's gonna change.
Or,
it.
I'm sorry, yeah, like right around in here.
Okay, so that should have been imposed on
Right.
here too.
This is the addition.
Yes.
Like we have to catch it before you publish it, otherwise we would have to publish it again.
So how wide is this gonna be, what? 4 foot, 8 foot?
You know, I haven't even really thought about
I
it.
did that.
Architect kind of tied it in, and we didn't really get that.
I think it's more like, it looks like it's kind of here, right?
Yeah.
Right, but I still need to know how big it is, to
Yeah, right.
change the variance.
So that's gonna be, probably 25 feet. But yeah,
Out?
if that corner's 29, I mean,
I need to
Yeah,
know.
so we have to have a precise number.
I need to know what this is.
yeah. Well, I mean, the new variance would be like something like
Right.
25
I
instead
know,
of the,
but I need to know
yeah.
what
Right.
it is. Can you, do you know, can you call whoever's doing this, so you can get that number tomorrow?
Yeah, I can reach out to him. See that, I don't know, if the plans don't have the measurements right, this is.
I'm not seeing it.
I'm gonna guess you're probably probably
I mean, we
around
could try,
550.
it should be as accurate as
It's-
possible, right? Because
Yeah,
if
yeah.
it's not, it's just gonna hurt you.
No, I understand.
So you can set the public hearing, and like the other gentleman, will change the agenda and the legal notice to reflect when you let us know.
Okay.
But we have to know by tomorrow, because you need to do the mailing by Friday, and we need to get it in the newspaper. Otherwise, you won't make April 11th. And if you don't think you can get it, then maybe we should move you, we could always move you out to the last meeting in the month. This way you have plenty of time. So you have to decide that now if you.
Okay,
want
so
to
you just need the measurements, right?
Yeah. Yeah, just need to make sure that's there. And so what we're gonna do.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dave.
Alright, so what we're gonna do, excuse me, is we're gonna schedule a site visit, again, probably be there around 9:30 to 9:45
On the 8th?
on the 8th.
9:30 will be fine.
Yeah, and we will schedule your public hearing for the 11th as well, on the 11th. If there ends up being a glitch with the dimensions or something like that, we'll just schedule it for the next meeting.
Okay.
But, well, for now, for tonight, we'll schedule it for the 11th.
All right,
okay?
okay.
And,
No, you can have the sign, let him the sign, but you'll have to stop by and pick up the amended, oh, you can email it, you'll have to print them out.
Okay.
so, does he need to sign? Okay. Alright, so B got a sign for you, and we'll see you on the 8th. Thanks.
Thank you.
Alright, next up, appeal number 237784, area variance. Bruce Gregg, seeking an area variance, section 24037 of district regulations in an R40 zoning district, where no accessory structure over 1,000 square feet is allowed on 3 acres. The applicant is looking to legalize an existing addition to their pole barn, which is now 1,600 square feet on 3.05 acres, thus requesting a variance of 600 square feet. The property is located at 67 Ketchumtown Road, popular road tonight, and is identified as tax grid number 615703183429 in the town of Wappinger. So please, for the record, your name and address.
Bruce Gregg, 67 Ketchumtown Road.
Gotcha. Gotcha, and we can have a brief description of what you need and why you need it.
Okay, I was looking for the variance for the extra 600 square feet of the pole barn extension, and which was basically just for storage. But the pole barn where it's situated is behind the nearest neighbor's back of the house, and the extension, the 16-foot extension that we were talking about is going in toward the wooded area, which is the deepest part of the property, so it's further away from the nearest neighbor and doesn't intrude on anyone's view of the woods or anything like that.
Because you have a long and narrow lot, looks like.
Yes, yes.
And you had some topo too.
And I believe the closest corner of the pole barn to the property line was 46 feet, which is further than I believe the minimum was, if I
Yeah,
was
it doesn't,
correct.
doesn't appear, you don't need any setback variances. It's the footprint variance that you need, right?
Did you build the pole barn? I mean, did you have it built?
Actually, it was my father had it built in about 85, and I had unfortunately done the extension myself, as far as that work was done basically 20 years ago. So and I had the engineer come out and inspect and everything, and he said it was built very well and so forth. So there was no issues, but I did want to really get it legalized and taken care of, because that was my error originally to not get it done.
So originally, your father built it in 85,
Yes.
and then 20 years ago, you extended it. How big was it originally?
24 wide by 40 deep.
Okay.
And then I went, and the 24-foot front of the pole barn, I extended out another 16 feet to be able to get additional storage, because my dad had passed in 98, and then I moved in 99. So it was basically a place to store all of my stuff until everything was broken up, distributed, and so forth, so.
Right. So,
The 40-foot dimension, that's the closest to the side property line? What's required for the side?
Then 10, now, and now it's only 25, so
Okay, yeah,
there's
so
more
plenty
than
there.
enough room
Okay.
on both sides.
Yeah.
got it. Any other questions, guys?
Just-
All right.
Just so the board is aware, so parcel access, Dutchess County parcel access, which shows the town of Wappinger assessor record shows that the pole barn was built in 1987, with 940 square feet, which is consistent with what he said. And then the extension was made in, according to this, 2004 of 480 square feet.
Gotcha. So we're, our
Apologize for
total
my
square,
dates.
I mean, there, again, his, whatever measurements are on site are probably better than the assessor's records, but typically these come from building permits or inspections.
it's been standing for almost 20 years.
So there was a permit, Jim, for the extension?
For the original
The
barn.
original pole
I
The
mean,
barn,
original,
yes.
but not the extension?
It's unclear, there may or may not have been.
Okay.
I guess the other question is, was this limitation in place in 2004?
No,
So at the time it was constructed, it was,
but they're legalizing it now.
but I mean, it wasn't, would be technically non-conforming. So. Okay.
Okay? All right, so we're gonna do a site visit to your place as well. We'll do that on the 8th of April,
Okay,
probably around 10 o'clock or so.
sure.
And we will also schedule your public hearing for the 11th. So the 11th, you'll be back here, and on the 8th, we'll be at your place around 10.
Okay, very good, thank you
And
very
then
much.
B has a sign for you.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Moving along.
Next on the agenda, appeal number 237785, area variance, Raymond and Letitia Odell, seeking an area variance, section 24037 of district regulations in an R20 zoning district, where 25 feet to the front yard property line is required. The applicant can provide 20 feet for an existing pool and to allow for a pool and deck to remain, thus requesting a variance of 15 feet. Where 35 feet to the front yard property line is required, the applicant can provide 20 feet for the legalization of an existing shed with CO from 2005, thus requesting a variance of 15 feet. The property is located at 21 Edge Hill Drive and is identified as tax grid number 6258048899097 in the town of Wappinger.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Your name
Lucretia
and address,
and
please.
Raymond Odell, 21 Edge Hill Drive.
Gotcha. All right. Go ahead.
So we purchased our house in 2010, and in 2012, in Hurricane Isaac, we lost, with an existing pool and deck, above ground pool and deck. In 2010, Hurricane Isaac and Hurricane Sandy destroyed that pool. It took us about 18 months to replace it. We were remiss, we did not know that we needed to get a permit to replace the pool. So we replaced the pool, we put it in exactly the same spot it was in, the pool and the deck. We just recently are doing an addition to our house, and found out that we needed to have a permit to replace the pool, to put the pool in a replacement. So I do believe that the original pool had a permit back in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken. We also, in this process, found out that our house is very unique because we are on 3 roads. So we technically have 3 front yards. And I know in Wappingers you're not allowed to have a pool in a front yard, but we technically don't really even have a backyard. So we have a side yard and 3 front yards. So we are in a unique situation. But that is, basically, that sums it up. That's where we're at.
Right. And we do have some of the, properties and circumstances where folks end up with multiple front yards.
Yes, we have Edge Hill to our front, which is our address, but we also are on the corner of Sherwood. Sherwood runs up our side, and Peel in the back.
And the shed was granted a CO in 2005, but I think the inspector at the time did not realize it was in a front yard. So since they're here, similar to the barn we're doing, it already has a CO, but I'd like it to have a variance, so should something happen to it, they can replace it. And they have such a unique
Yes.
yard, one of the first I've come across. They really don't have a lot of choices. So I'd like you to legalize the shed with a variance as well in this.
And I just want to say that everybody has been so very helpful with this situation because we do have a unique set of property and we were unaware of things. And because we were remiss about the fact that we needed a permit we didn't know, everyone has been very accommodating and understanding.
It's
So I appreciate
definitely
it.
a unique piece of property for sure.
I'm in similar, I have 2 front yards too. And needed a variance.
You need one more to catch up with us.
No, I'm not in your
There aren't that many
category.
places I think you're gonna catch up.
Then when we sell, it should be popular, someone will want it.
2 variances we need, right?
Yep. For pool,
Well, you're gonna add one.
No, it's already there.
What's it?
Yeah. right,
One is
already.
for the pool.
Oh, gotcha,
And one is
gotcha.
for the shed, and the shed I tagged on. Normally, I wouldn't have made them get a variance because it has a CO, but since they're coming here anyway,
Thank you.
Yeah.
I thought it was a good time to bring it to your attention, as I've done in the past sometimes with something,
Sure,
just helps them down the
yeah,
road.
sure.
Thank you.
Good, help
So,
clean it
so
up.
the I think the public hearing notice should be clear, because the variance is for the deck and the pool, correct?
Yes.
Right.
There's two different variances.
Yeah, actually,
Right.
The first one, as Jim's pointed out, the deck is also in the front yard. So you're legalizing the pool and the deck.
but the deck does not need that 15 feet variance.
Well, it's not as close to the road.
Right,
So the
exactly.
closer item here is the pool.
Pool, right. So why deck need a variance? Because deck is more
It's
than.
also too close to the road.
Really? Okay.
Well, it's
They
also
need
attached to the pool.
35 feet to the road. If you look on their survey,
Right,
they
okay.
have the perforation, like the lines. Anything outside of that is a front yard, and they've got 3 sides of it.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So basically, the only thing that's not in the front yard is the stairs to the deck and, you know,
That
the
one
edge of the,
And a third of the
and
pool.
a third of the pool.
So we're talking about the pool deck needing a
Yes.
variance.
Oh, pool deck, okay. I see.
And we're measuring to the edge of the pool deck or to the edge of the,
Edge of the pool.
of the pool? Yeah, that's what it looks like on here, I just,
For the pool and deck to remain, got it. Okay. In the shed, we know. Okay. Any other questions, you guys?
No.
All right, so, again, we'll do a site visit,
Yeah, but the shed's small.
10:30-ish, maybe a little later. In that neighborhood, we'll be there at your house on the 8th,
Okay,
and we'll schedule your public hearing for the 11th as well.
great, thank you.
And B has a sign for it.
And thank you for your kind words. I'll let the staff know. We don't get it often.
we'll take a quick break or you want to keep going?
I'm gonna get a drink of water.
Intermission?
Yeah.
Intermission?
Yep, I'm gonna run and get a drink of water.
I'm gonna run to the head.
Okay. So, you guys can get set up, we're just gonna get a quick water break. And a potty break if you need to, I guess.
Good idea.
All right, I think court's back in session. You guys ready? All righty. Next up on the agenda, last but not least, right? Appeal number 227772, area variance, Alpine Commons, multifamily workforce housing, seeking an area variance, section 24037 and 24081.7 of district regulations in an SC zoning district, where a maximum of 93 dwelling units is allowed. The applicant is proposing 144 dwelling units, thus requesting a variance for an increase in the density for mixed uses to allow for 51 additional dwelling units to be constructed. Where 2.5 stories or 35 feet maximum building height is allowed, the applicant is requesting an increase to 3.5 stories or 50 feet building height, thus requesting a variance of 1 story and/or 15-foot building height. Where 282 parking spaces is required for 144 dwelling units, the applicant is requesting a decrease in required parking spaces to 238 parking spaces, thus requesting a variance of 44 less parking spaces. The property is located at 1404 Route 9 and is identified as tax grid number 615-702, 707773 in the town of Wappinger. Lead agency, January 31st, 2023. Okay.
Good evening, Chairman.
Good evening. Please state your name for the record.
Sure, my name is Neil Alexander. I'm a partner at the law firm of Cuddy and Fader. Also here with me tonight to my right is Brendan Lloyd from Dakota Partners, and Brian Donato from Dakota Partners sends his regrets. Unfortunately, he had a family commitment that didn't allow him to be here this evening. I think if you would allow me to, I'm going to start sort of with the procedural aspect, which is we were originally here on December 13th. Subsequently, your intent to serve as lead agency in the coordinated review of this project was circulated on January 31st. You've received several excuse me, responses, all consenting to you from various agencies, and the 30-day time frame to object has actually run. So before we even get into our February 3rd submission, I would just ask if you would consider adopting a resolution to make yourself lead agency at this time, and then we can start talking about what we submitted on February 3rd, just to move along on that procedural aspect.
Yeah, I tell you, my feeling on that is I don't know if I want to do that without a full board. Any objections to that, Jim? Is there any reason why? I mean, I know, you know, gosh, Mr. Lanzini, right? I'm sure he would want to be a part of it, right?
The decision-making process?
Yes.
Right. I mean, you've already, may I interject for a second? Just factually, you already are essentially, you by circulating your intent and no one objecting, you essentially are a lead agency. Just usually as a formality, you pass a resolution saying, we are the lead agency. So while I respect the full complement of the board, I don't know if we're really depriving him of something that is sort of, it's pro forma. You asked to be it, you circulated to everybody who potentially could challenge it, but I understood. I'll stop there.
I mean, you know, he's a part of it.
Would it matter if we don't do it, Jim?
I mean, in some respects, under the way the secret regulations are written, since nobody else has chimed in, you are the de facto lead agency. In essence, I think whether you adopt a resolution or not, you're the lead agency. So, you know, procedurally, I don't think it necessarily matters. You know, based on the responses that you've gotten. So I think, you know, for a clean record, I think the easiest thing to do is to just note that, you know, that you circulated for lead agency, no one has responded seeking jurisdiction, and based on the regulations, you are the lead agency by regulation. I don't think you necessarily need to adopt a resolution one way or another.
That's fine.
I think if
If you don't want you people, don't do it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think just for the record, you know, you become the lead agency.
Gotcha. It's basically automatic.
Right.
That's however you want to handle it is fine. So more substantively, when we were in front of you, some questions had arisen, which led to our February 3rd submission through Thrive and Design, The two issues that really had come up were relating back to the variance for parking and also the height variances that you had so noted. And so what we did was we gave you about 5 sections. These are the 11 by 17 pages. I'm dealing right now with the first page. The sections can be seen on the right-hand side of where the locations are, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, that they were taken from, and then the details from Low Sea Road, Sussex Place, Old Hopewell, State Route 9, and a second location on Old Hopewell. What they really show you, and we can go one by one, but if you bulk them together, essentially, first of all, they show that the nearest lineal distance is 744 feet, and that's from Sussex Place. What they also show, and they're from public locations, obviously, is the intervening, not only lineal distance, but also they show the vegetation, and they show if topography blocks viewers. So by perfect example, site line 4 from Route 9, which I think you all know experientially from driving up and down 9, there's a big grade shift. So not only is it 1,100 feet away, or 6 feet over that, but what you also can see is that the sight line shows that you're actually hitting topography, and then the bottom of trees as you go from left to right on the page, and therefore it would be impossible to see the peak of the roof. I mean, even just topography in that case, then there's also the intervening distance, and then there's obviously all the vegetation. Even if you take Low-Sea Road, excuse me, which is about 1,060 feet, which is your first site section, there you can see that there is a structure of someone's house right from the road, and then even if you presumed behind it, there's vegetation, then there was another house, and again, what you're running into on the angle of inclination is all that intervenes, and the viewer would be viewing the top of the peak, wouldn't even be able to see the top of the peak of the roof. And so what that sort of suggests is that although we're seeking to go additional stories and additional height, and even with the grade changes, that you're not only lineal distance, 1,000 feet is just short of it. 1,100 feet is more than 2/10 of a mile, just to give you perspective. But more importantly, you have a lot of intervening vegetation in the lineal distance, and in the case of Route 9, you obviously have the topography. From the roads, we recognize also that, and that's why we showed you the houses that would be, these houses front on the roads in some cases, so you also get a sense of what that line would look like if you were standing in the backyard, and just how much vegetation is intervening. DEC guidance is to take it from publicly accessible places. I don't want to jump to the next one too quickly. Is that okay if we go to the next one? So the next one was an attempt to get at the density question. And the left-hand side is our proposed project with all 144 units. And as you know, this site has some undulating topography. And so in working with our engineers and working with our architects, essentially, because of the nature of the site, your building areas are sort of your building areas. And therefore, the way you'd bring in your infrastructure and your parking and where you'd site your units is essentially the same, regardless of whether you drop the number of units. On the right-hand side, we've dropped the units down to 92, where the max is 93, as opposed to on the left-hand side, where it's 144 units. And a couple of different things went into our study here. So we dropped it down to the zoning conforming units. As you know, this is a workforce housing product. We would not be able to deliver that kind of a product, given you have to bring extend the utilities, you have to do the infrastructure, and realistically, we would need to change our mix from pure multifamily. We probably would, you drop down that many units, you're gonna look at needing to shift away to more townhouse than flats over and above. You're going to need to increase the number of bedrooms. You're going to need to increase increase the number of bathrooms, which means you're going to want to have bigger units. You're gonna need to switch from primarily 1s and 2s with some 3s to primarily 3s and maybe some 4s. And what winds up happening is that there's no real gain in order to have a financeable project. And this was even done before we had about 250 basis point change in the 10-year treasury, let alone where mortgage rates and construction loans are today. So it's slightly greener, as you notice in the bottom, comparing the bottom parking areas for the two different projects. But realistically, between utility costs and the land cost stays fixed, rates have gone up since then, you're going to have to go to a bigger unit. And candidly, part of the workforce is, as you know, that DHCR will provide a subsidy, and also, as you may have seen in the news today, the county highlighted this as one of 6 projects in the county for providing and preserving workforce housing. So they're providing a subsidy as well.
Do you have the square footages for both these schemes?
You know, we anticipate, and it's a big ballpark, we think it's 10 to 25% bigger in order, because you need, basically, in a very
10 to 25%, like what? Like, what's the range we're looking at with square footage?
I can get that answer to you. I think ballpark, you're talking about, you know, a 2-bedroom that may be around 700-800 square feet, and then you'd have to go 10 to 25% bigger than that. You'd also have to start skewing towards a 3-bedroom situation. So you know, what winds up happening is, at the end of the day, what you're really needing is you need the same square footage, right? Because all your other costs are fixed and they're the same.
So we're looking at like 115,000 square feet, somewhere in that range, roughly.
I mean, if that's the math,
That's 800
I see your calculator out, I'm not gonna argue
144.
with that math.
Yeah, that's 800 times 144.
Well, I'm also not gonna argue with the calculator. You know, it's a rough proportionality. I mean, we could get drilled down, but basically what winds up happening is you have subsidies available to you when you go workforce that help bridge the construction cost gaps. If you switch, the reality here is you're not going to be able to get those subsidies for a 93-unit project, because you're going to have to go to much bigger bedrooms and bathrooms, because at the end you need the yield, right? You need to get to the same, you're solving for the same number, really, essentially, right? As to how much revenue you're going to be able to generate to go back on the debt service for the construction costs of building the project.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the considerations I'm looking at is that with the existing commercial square footage, you know, your unit count is based upon, you know, kind of a calculation of what's left of the site. And it seems like, you know, if we give you the unit count, then, you know, basically there's a lot of zoning floor area left on the table that's basically undevelopable.
Compared to being 100% commercial, that's true.
Yeah.
But I think what I would sort of introduce to that, though, is for 3 years it stayed empty, completely empty.
Yeah.
Other than the BJ's, and no disrespect to our existing tenants, but they're not necessarily the same tenants that we thought we could get if we had done a different project. They're great. We're very happy to have them there.
Because we believe
but
like
that
roughly
also isn't
1.2 million square feet, like undeveloped which is it's a big number, and it's when you look at the overall commercial, you know, square footage in the overall city, it's kind of a
yeah.
big
I mean,
chunk,
what I would argue
right?
though is that if you look at all the vacancies up and down 9 for as long as they've been vacant in the town, what I would say is your market area with the number of people you have, your problem is not, you know, I guess the old joke is if it costs you $12 to produce a broom and you can sell it for $10 all day long, your problem isn't selling brooms at $10. Your problem is your production cost. What I would argue here is your problem is you don't have enough people. You don't have enough population to support the amount of retail that was built.
So the property owners have no intent to ever add anything else to the site basically after this? Because they'd be maxed out, right? They wouldn't be able to build anything mathematically, yeah.
It would have to come back to this board to get a further variance unless there was a zoning text amendment change. I mean, look, obviously, the gorilla or the elephant in the room is that there was previously an attempt to make zoning text amendments onto the property that showed a even further build out of this site and activation of this site that involved potentially a hotel, that involved potentially some subsidized veterans housing, that showed a potential restaurant pad as well. And none of, under your current zoning, none of that could happen. We were asking for zoning text amendments to do all that, to sort of create a hamlet. And that was a discussion that went along very well until it didn't. You know, so Board Member Barr, to answer your question, it's under the this design would use up and exceed all the density available for commercial and residential as a mixed-use site. My argument to you is that the problem in the town is you need more people. You need, the site selectors aren't looking for the town to, and that's why you've seen so many of your sites linger for so long. And then a lot of the uses you're getting are not activating uses. They're more set it and forget it type of uses, whether it's self-storage or they're not things where people are coming the same way.
David, one of the things that, to your concern, and I can get it from the assessor, is the list of the top 10 properties in the town as far as assessed value. And the largest property based on assessed value, the highest market value of any property in the town, I believe, is Chelsea Ridge Apartments. Basically, of all of the top 5 properties in the town, I think 3 are apartments. This property dropped substantially after it went vacant and was foreclosed. It was never the top, it was within the top 5. But Pavilion condominiums are also up there. So, you know, but again, those sites are probably much larger. You know, Chelsea Ridge is huge, you know, as is Pavilion. But, so, you know, this site, I'd have to go back and look, but it's one of the larger, you know, it's probably the top commercial property in the town. And then the building, the old, that pizza, not, one of the Pizza Galley buildings is also big, and that's a data center. So, but yeah, we don't have a whole lot of big commercial properties. Yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds like the general approach is put residential as the market turns, or if the zoning changes, slowly add with variances or with changes to the overall zoning, additional commercial restaurants. In the direction of the original plan. I mean, is that what the overall idea is, or is no one even thinking about that?
Yeah, we were excited to move towards a hamlet. That just didn't work out, and it wasn't from our side. So ultimately, there was not a complete appetite for that, so we pivoted to an application for just the housing per the mixed use, needing variances. I mean, I think, you know, as your attorney, as Jim Moran was saying, is this is a property that roughly at its peak, I think, had a valuation of about 20 million, and as a result of the last tax certiorari, I think it was down to about 12. That's a big gap, and we're trying to bring 144 units of workforce housing that'll have, you know, a sizable valuation to the town, which would help move it back towards where it was on the budget. And you know, a lot of the access is there, where, you know, if you think about it, this is really a great opportunity. I mean, there's, you know, Route 9 has the utilities, Route 9 has the traffic, you know, pattern already. We already have a signalized traffic traffic light at us, and within 3 miles, there in each direction, there's several traffic lights. We have 2 turning lanes in, from both directions. So this is sort of the that gray field that can be repositioned, to activate it and bring to, you know, the area some more shoppers who need to consume.
Under the programs you guys are using to develop this site, do they not allow like true mixed-use developments? Like, are you able to add a retail component to this, or does that just not work with the way you're funding it?
We do. We have 200,000, so you have about 209,000 square feet of retail out there right now. You have the BJ's.
On the adjacent site,
Yeah.
I mean like in this site, you know, like if you're doing stores with apartments above, like, does your current funding allow for any more integrated? You know, like right now, you know, the closest, you know, store to this is gonna be that furniture store.
I gotta think about that. Generally, you don't get, in the multifamily world, much credit for your retail below from the bankers. But and I'm an attorney, I'm not gonna speak to the underwriting process completely, but generally, I know from projects I've done where I've, you know, done mid-rise and high-rise up to 16 stories, and you have, you know, your amenity tenants on the first floor, and you have 400 units above, and you're still getting a bagel, candidly, from underwriting relative to the fact that you have retail on the first floor. They're just not giving you any credit for it, because they're lending based on the anticipated revenue stream of the multifamily, and that's what they know and they're comfortable for. You know, so I don't want to stray into a field that's not my best expertise by any stretch, but we can ask that question. I just don't think that that's gonna work here. But I can ask.
Neil, does Dakota have any plans on subdividing this in the future away
No.
from the rest?
We have no interest in subdividing it. We will handle that issue relative to segregating our financing, either through a condo or a long-term ground lease. So it will be mixed use per the provisions. It will be an integrated site plan working together. And then if the legislation ever changed, we could get more there. But this would be what we're looking to do. You know, I know there had been an interest in seeing where now is the Fun Adventure and the furniture store at one point in time, about activating that for first floor retail, and we were 100% behind that when we needed, and we made it clear we needed 4 or 5 stories above, and we did not get anywhere with that, with the town board, ultimately on that legislation that was filed and proposed and studied for about a year.
Yeah, you know, I think, you know, the site, you know, lends itself to some development, right? Your density and you know, your variances do raise obviously some concerns to all of us, right? And you know, there's a lot to be digested.
We understand that, and we're not looking, you know, we're looking to try and address your concerns. And, you know, I think the big point that we were able to make through the sightline studies is that height isn't an issue here. It's an 86-acre site. Even though we're off on one side, the sightline's really going up the extra stories and the extra height. And by the way, even though the variance is written as 50 feet, that has a lot to do with the fact that it's an undulating site and the way height is defined in your code. And you'll see in what we wrote, we thought we were gonna range, I think, now I'm having recollection issues, but I think we thought we were gonna range anywhere from 42 to 49 feet, so I think, you know, it was suggested to put 50 feet in because of the way it's measured. So it's not like every building's gonna sit that high up, but when we did our studies, we, you know, made the assumptions and showed that. So, I mean, I think that helps with regard to that issue. I think the parking ratio, we have enough experience with other facilities we operate. You had the report from Colliers as to the amount of parking. And the variance also allows us not to be sort of thinking about the rest of the site, which, I mean, you've all been out there, you know that there is an abundance of extra parking, and you also are aware of your ratios are amongst the highest in the region that you use for parking just to begin with, relative to, you know, retail and office and otherwise. So I think from that standpoint, it's pretty clear. I understand the density issue. I think it's a little weird though, too, as my first letter, just to refresh your recollection, went to. You do not use a density deduct provision anywhere in your code except for against multifamily and multifamily in mixed use. And that pretty much knocks us down by about 40% compared to, you know, and I think there was like a salacious number in there that we could develop over 1 million square feet of retail, but yet we're here for a variance for 144, essentially, rough math, 145,000 square feet of residential, but yet we could put another 900,000 square feet of commercial out there. So there's some interesting aspects of your code as to how it works against the development of multifamily that I think are really salient. I think it's also interesting that, you know, as far as pure RMF 3 and 5 zones, if you look at the zoning map for your town as a whole, there it comes down to, again, that was in my first letter, but it comes down to like there are 340 acres in the entire town out of 13,000 that are zoned for residential where you can put pure multifamily. And if you look at the aerials, they're almost exclusively built out. So where does the new multifamily get built in your community? And, you know, the other thing is, the reality here is if you want to incite and induce employers from an economic development standpoint, you need a broad range of housing at a broad range of price points, because any employer who's going to bring significant jobs to a community, that's what their salaries look like, right? There's a range. And so therefore, if you want to bring them to the community. So I think ultimately, we're bringing the benefit of a diversity of housing at a diversity of price point. And that's you know, where it comes down on the density. There is no need for 900,000 square feet more of retail in your community at this location. And you know, it's just 93 units isn't gonna cut it with the infrastructure that we do need to put in, the way the site is developed, and it isn't necessarily gonna yield any less environmental impact from a seeker standpoint. But I know I need to get you some questions, to answer something more about that first floor retail. We're not looking for a decision tonight, obviously. We just wanted to get some reactions and see if there are other issues you want us to provide a little more information about.
Barbara, the height code, that's measured from like mean grade, right? Mean grade to the bridge?
I believe so, yeah.
I think it was like halfway, right, because it's a pitched roof.
To where?
It's a pitched roof, so it was like halfway or something.
Halfway.
I was gonna say, is your code the one that says
grade.
front door too? Or no, am I confusing it with
Don't
another
think
No,
community?
we don't
Okay.
have a front door. No,
think
we
it
don't
was-
have a front door reference, it's 2.5 stories or 35 feet.
So, which I don't understand why we have half stories in commercial districts.
But we do.
But we do.
But we do.
But, and then the other thing is, Neil, there is a letter from the planning board
sorry, it actually, can I interject with one thing? So, my November 14th letter, if you have it around, on page 5, the definition of building height is the greatest vertical distance measured from the adjoining finished grade at the front of a building to the highest point of the roof, if the roof is flat, or to the mean level between the eaves and the highest point of the roof, if the roof is of any other type. So part of what's hurting us too is that front of a building, not front door, sorry, I
Right.
remember it completely right. But the front of the building is the problem. I apologize, Jim.
Go ahead, Jim, you were saying? So, in the record, and it's on the website, if, and I don't know if it was provided to you, there is a comment letter, from the planning board, dated February 22nd, 2023, with some of the, areas of concern or areas of, seeker interest. A submission, a reply to that letter would be appreciated.
Sure.
And
Do you
then-
have it?
I don't have the letter.
Here you go.
Brendan was good enough to watch and get us a list.
And it's also on the town website.
Okay.
It's on the ZBA website.
I must have missed it, then, my apologies.
So,
It actually went up late, so that's why I'm giving you a copy.
Thank you.
and then, so, let's see. I don't, Dutchess County Health Department had, just said at some point in time, sewer plans would have to be provided. I didn't see anything. Did the DOT have anything in there?
I don't think so. I think they just,
Didn't they have comments that they wanted to have a second entrance, an auxiliary entrance? You were looking at that easement?
I don't think so. I have their letter right
That was
here.
the last
It
go
says February 10th, 2023, their letter from DOT said that, they only dealt with one issue. They just said they, were in receipt of the full EAF, along with the notice of intent to serve, and DOT consents to the ZBA assuming the role of lead agency, and they want subsequent plans and documents in a digital format.
But that's just allowing us to be lead agency.
Yeah, they haven't given us any comments.
But didn't they give you comments when you were in front of the town board? That they, you didn't
Not,
show it?
we have no comments from them on this application.
Okay.
When there was legislation, they had comments, I think. No, actually, I don't think they had comments.
Because you showed the easement that goes behind the store.
We do have
on
an
the end of
easement.
Hopewell.
We do have an
Hopewell, so-
easement that goes down to Old Hopewell, but that,
Right, I remember seeing that though from
Yeah.
your housing, when they
I,
were looking
I
for
think
text
that was,
amendments.
I don't think that was a written comment. I think that was, at some point, I think John Collins may have, did Phil have, did you guys have?
I think we had some contact, but that was again in a very different context. We had a 100-key hotel, we had,
Yeah, I don't,
we had-
again, I
yeah.
don't ever recall it being in writing. I just think it was, but,
Yeah, no, on this application, we've received comments from DOT, from DHCR, from the county DOH, or they go by
right.
BCH now. We got 239 seeker circulation and 239, I'm sorry, a seeker circulation form and a 239 local concern from Dutchess County Planning. And that's what we've received to date. And all of those really were just formally consenting to your board being lead agency. So we will take a look at the planning board's comments that you just handed us.
And
and
we
we
also
can-
need escrow, I sent you an email.
So we submitted a $3,000 check with our application. Did you not?
And it might have gone on to the planning board or town board.
No, we submitted it only to you, right? Yeah.
All right, so we'll check.
If you could check around, and obviously if there's more that's needed beyond that, a couple
Well,
months
we have to
later.
see if we have the check, so if we don't have, we'll look further,
Yeah,
and we'll be in touch.
we checked, the check's been cashed.
Oh, okay, then, so
So,
it was put somewhere, just it may
Right.
see if it was put into the town or the planning board that we move it over to ZBA.
yeah, let us know.
Do
We're-
you also have like a more complete site plan? I know we've got like portions, but do you have a site plan that kind of shows the wetlands that you're not counting, the commercial components of the site, the residential components of the site? Is that something that's
We
been
can,
put
we
together?
can give you the site as a whole, if you'd like to see that. I think it's been a while since November. Let me just take a quick look.
Yeah, I didn't see it on my stack. I don't know if anyone else had a,
I think when we submitted November 14th, and I don't know if we,
I feel like it was cutting off at the commercial stores.
yeah, there, Exhibit D to our November 14th submission was a series of site civil drawings from Benish. And we also actually gave you full architecturals. But I can look for, we can get you,
Neil, is it this
fuller-
one?
that looks right from here. Hold on a second.
I have it stamped in as November 15th.
Yeah, that's right. It's 86 acres, so even our survey is,
You have to
With the
print
match
off,
line?
you can print off bigger.
no, I mean, even when we do our,
Yeah.
it's, if you look on the filed map on county land records, we're several sheets with match lines because of the size, but I can, let me see if I can, get you what you're,
Just a succinct diagram of the overall site, even if it's from, GIS or something that
Yeah,
shows how it,
okay.
corresponds to 240-81.7 or whatever.
yeah. Yeah, if you want, it basically, I'm looking at even our match lines on our Republic National, but yeah, we can get you something. Actually, if you look at C 2.0 in that submission, and it's not 11 by 17, but we can get you full size.
March 17th.
There's a whole site is essentially.
Well, that's not showing the wetlands, right? That's kind of cut
The
off.
wetlands are all over here.
Yeah, it's that whole top corner, right?
Yeah, it's the whole, basically north of the
Yeah.
old Stop and Shop
Yeah,
building,
it's not, that's not.
all the
So
way.
it would just be nice to see the full,
Yep.
with the wetland corner highlighting like
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
wetlands.
yeah. I didn't want you to have, I'm not positive I can deliver it where it fits on a 2 foot by 3 foot. That's what I got, that's what I'm gonna try and do. Obviously, you gotta get
That's
it
fine.
better
The guy with the
than-
house with a huge stack. I mean, we're fine with 2 sheets.
Yeah, we'll get you something that's more, that puts the drawing set in full, size. But yeah, if you look at 2.0, the right-hand side is our project, and then left, you can see the BJ's in the back, and then you can see this Stop and Shop on the left, and then basically everything from there over is getting deducted.
So no, you're not, in this November submission, it looks like you were using what we used to call Lot 6 for the hotel, but you're not using this now?
No, go to the next sheet, 2.0. Maybe it's 2 sheets down, don't go down.
No, I don't.
We need to get it to you on 2.0, that's all.
Okay.
That shows your indication. So, here's going down to 9.
This would have been the
This is
other lot,
the easement
right?
area.
This is that other lot.
Well,
Here.
The front of the lot, yeah.
Right,
Okay,
that was, exactly, that was discussed.
so how many acres is this, here, this one?
So the whole site is 86, and I gotta get you a figure as to
I'd like to know what this is.
the land disturbance. Well, I can get-
Just what you're saying you're using for your multifamily.
So where we are is, if you look at page 9 of 13 in the full EAF, we have that, essentially it looks to me like, actually, wait, let me give you a better spot. And we can get this pulled together in a more succinct fashion, but I believe the total land disturbance area is under 10 acres. And Yeah, so on page 3 of 13 of our full EAF, we anticipated that the total area physically to be disturbed is 7.5 acres. But we can get you,
So just for the gentleman up at the dais, so
yep,
you would be disturbing and building all of this on 7 acres?
correct.
I just
Yeah.
think they need that clear.
Yes, so this part of the project, compared to where we're spurring off from the existing parking area and then doing the project is 7.5 acres. That's exactly correct.
So is this all on, in essence, undeveloped land, or other than that spur off, or are you reclaiming any area of parking?
I think we are using only area that hasn't been developed except for that little strip.
Yeah.
This is the store, this is the steep hill.
Right.
Here's where they have their propane parking lot, this ends, and it's just.
Yeah, and this is the gas station up here, where they're gonna put the gas station. In looking at the DHCR comment letter,
Yes,
so they had, some comments regarding, down the road if you need to go to them. But, for seeker purposes, I think, was there a submission from ORPS? Do you have a submission from ORPS?
I don't know if we have, what we've done for SHPO. Let me find out.
Okay. And so they have a notice for SHPO, obviously stormwater issues. And then they talked about, phase 1 environmental,
Right, that goes back to them,
right.
them being taking.
No, right.
Yeah,
I know that's a financing, that's typically something that lenders require on a commercial project, to show that. A phase 1 environmental means for, environmental pollution, Superfund issues, prior environmental spills. So, a phase 1 is usually just a literature survey, which looks to see, are there any spills that have been filed on the site? Have there been, any records of toxic waste dumps in the area? A little bit of background as to what the history of the property has been. Was it ever used, as an orchard? One of the things orchards have, the pesticides, typically used arsenic, so basically what a phase 1 environmental is just a background study to see what was the nature of the property. I assume, did Diamond get a phase 1 when they bought after foreclosure?
Yeah, but on an 86-acre site, my guess is it was just.
I mean, if you have
yeah.
one,
I can see if there's a phase 1. We would, let me see what we have for a phase 1 ESA.
Could you also look for the board to see if you can see a comparable site in Wappinger or somewhere local that has that much housing on 7 acres?
I don't think there is a place in Wappinger. I think the village has, where
But
the
something
old, where
they
the
can
old
go
Avalon
look at
used to
and
be.
see.
I don't think there is much in the way of multifamily housing. I mean, if you look at the comp
But
plan.
existing, there's a lot of existing multifamily.
Like
We have the
pavilion.
Pavilion, we have Woodhill, we have Lane,
Which-
we have Montclair, we have Chelsea Ridge,
yeah, I mean,
Village
just,
Crest.
even if you just did a study, I guess by way of comparison,
Yeah,
Just
the
something that they
density-
can visualize then.
yep,
If you can find something with that much housing on that small amount of acreage.
I mean, in the village, probably the highest density of any property around here would be Imperial Garden.
Yes.
So.
It's a high rise.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's on probably 3 acres, so.
that's in the village though, right?
Yep.
There's-
Right,
yeah.
but they might wanna see something.
Yeah, but I
with-
mean, I think, I think that's probably, the highest density of anything around.
And I was thinking, I don't know who owns it now, but it was originally, I think, an Avalon in the village as well. It's probably a lot more like this.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, Imperial Gardens, and then there's a number of other, developments right there.
Okay.
They're older, 1960s.
Oh, okay.
They were built out, some of them were built out as apartments and then got co-opted. But, you know, they've got probably pretty good densities. And then, you know, pavilion, I mean, most of the other things are condos.
4 William Whitegate.
I just think the visual of seeing that much housing on that small piece will give them a reference.
Right. And then you can ask Jennifer about, Jennifer Van Hout in Riverbend.
Riverbend, right, yeah. Riverbend is ownership, is that correct? Or is it
Yes,
rental?
I believe. I mean, it's not condo, they're all rentals, I believe.
They are rentals?
Yeah.
Right, we can take a look at that, just to help understand. We can also get you some photos of other projects we've done, just so you have an understanding of how we operate.
And actually, on Riverbend, there was a variance to go from 3 to 4 for height. So, you can actually submit that as well. I represented the village planning board at the time that was approved.
Is that the village also, Riverbend?
Riverbend, yes,
It's the village?
that's,
Yes.
except for this sign. The sign
That
is
was,
in the
yeah,
town.
that was Sterling, right? I think
Yeah.
we did Riverbend. Yeah, I mean, as you know, your code doesn't allow over 35 feet anywhere in a with any residential, period.
Or commercial.
Or commercial, right. It's just universally 35 feet, which obviously is sort of vestigial. Definitely anachronistic.
Yeah, but before coming to us, you guys were talking to the town board though, correct?
We were talking to them for over a year.
Yeah. So that process was going nowhere and you decided to come to us? Is
That process was going everywhere, and then it stopped abruptly, not by us. So we had a lot of back and forth with Malcolm Simpson, who is the town planner, as you know, with the planning board, with Jim, with Barbara, with the town board, for over a year, going through different, could you do this, could you do that, could you do, you know, we had a roundabout that we had proposed in the middle of the site, some traffic pattern changes, padding it out intellectually with, you know, also doing a lot of ripping up of the pavement in front of the former Stop and Shop building. And trying to kiosk out some interesting things. We had proposed a village, like farmer's market green area with gazebo for auditorium and performance, you know, not a, you know, like a space, an outdoor space, and all these things and things we had gone back and forth about. Then nothing.
I mean, it does feel like what you're asking for requires changes to zoning rather than variances.
Well,
At least in terms
I
of
would say to you
density.
is, yeah, it's a mixed, mixed-use provision hasn't been used, to my knowledge, previously. It's been in the code for a very long time, and, you know.
Old Hopewell Commons, I believe.
Did it?
They definitely used it.
They did it? Okay.
So we can, if
Yeah.
you wanna ask for that, we can get it, so you can look at that.
Yep.
They had variance, they had variance for height.
I'm yeah, I was gonna say, I'm sure they needed some kind of variance. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it comes down to is, you know, using the mixed use destroys a lot of our FAR. And that's how you wind up with the variances, you know, I mean, I think it distills really as simply down to, literally the way the code is written, we're entitled to 900,000 square feet of something we can't get. Because we tried for 3 years. Which is commercial. But ostensibly, we could build 900,000 square feet of building out there in like a Lego world, you know, like, or a Monopoly world.
Even more, I think.
Right? In a Lego or Monopoly world, we could just go build it and it would just sit vacant and then say, hey, we need to reposition it, can you help us, right? And what we're asking for is 145,000 square feet roughly. That rough, rough math of about 1,000 square feet per housing unit, intellectually, of residential. It's wildly different, and obviously almost intuitively less intense than having a 1 million square foot mall. So it's just sort of, there's a lot, I'm going back as we're chatting here to, our November 14th submission, where we sort of try to put it all down for you all. And there's just, the way you're allowed to use the gross commercial form, for calculating FAR if you stay all one use. But if you go to mixed use and you add residential, you have to do this density deduct, which takes away, 45.5% of our acreage. We've calculated the net lot areas down to 47.3 acres. Per that letter, I was much more, facile back then with all of it, and I'm reading it as we're sort of chatting here. And at the end of the day, the comp plan, sort of to go to your, the comp plan, recommends the encouragement of higher commercial density and mixed commercial land use in commercial areas that support transit, reduce traffic, improve local identity, provide opportunities for public spaces, and promotes pedestrian activity. And then, the need is clear. I don't really need to explain that. I mean, I think the 2009 three-county housing needs assessment made that clear. The March 22 Dutchess County Housing Needs Assessment made that clear. I think the county made it clear today when
Do
they
you
gave
have
us
copies of them? So that would actually be useful to.
they're online.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's on top of page 5 of my November 14th letter. It references it, and literally if you just put those words in that order in Google, it'll pop right up. And I think the county made it clear that they're committed to seeing a diversity of housing with awarding us, we're only one of 6 countywide that was awarded by the new Housing Trust Fund to create or preserve housing. So I think the need is there. I think the building height is Jim corrected me, is, it's 35 feet everywhere. And I think our study showed that giving us the extra height and stories is a non-effect. You're not going to see it. The parking is a straight variance for the use. I think others may have misconceived the notion. We are not looking to subdivide it. We're looking to keep it a mixed use. Yes, I think to your point, Member Barr, what we had in front of the town board was more thoroughly activating the site, but also a lot more FAR, right? You're gonna have, 100 key hotels, so pick up another 100,000 plus square feet. There was veterans housing, small houses for veterans that was being contemplated. There was a restaurant that was being contemplated. There was a little bit of out retail, so it would have gone up even higher. So yes, that would have created more of a hamlet than this does, but this is a great first step, and then maybe, once this is absorbed and understood, the legislation would come forward at some future date. I think, when we were doing the legislative discussion, there was a discussion about this site and about, diagonally, well, basically just across the whole, is that Myers Corners? At the Hannaford site, that could potentially have been another, site to activate, given the history of, turnover on the retail there, and its location to sort of activate the area. So I think this is a great place to start. It's a gray field, if you really think about it, right? It's already developed. It's got the infrastructure's all there. I mean, we have to officially be put into the water district, but it's literally like at the front, and I think it actually goes through our property, the water line. So
technically, the property's not in the water district.
Correct.
But it has a tenancy agreement to connect to the water for firefighting purposes. So there is actually a connection to the town United Wappinger Water District. They have a tank, a storage tank on site by
by the BJ's building, for fire suppression for BJ's. And I think it's actually for the whole site. Plus, the site also has hydrants, which are supplied by that system. So, while it's technically not part of the United Wappinger Water District, it has a tenancy agreement, it has a water connection, and it pays for water from the town.
So if I'm hearing you all correctly, we need to get you a little bit more understanding as to why first floor retail is not doable. We need to answer the planning board or address the planning board's questions from their memo from February 22nd. I believe Brendan was saying we think we have already the SHPO sign off, so we will get you where we are with SHPO. I will see if we can find a phase 1 ESA from when we acquired the property. We'll get you some photos of our Dakota projects to help you understand what we do. And then we'll take a look around at Imperial Garden Pavilions, what I call the former Avalon in Riverbend, just to get you a montage of what those projects look like to help you.
Also look at Chelsea Ridge.
Chelsea Ridge, thank you.
Yep. And then just, on the, back to the DHCR letter.
Yes, sir.
There's the last two items, which I think are kind of interesting, which we typically don't usually see, in the town. So evidence to support compliance with the New York State Smart Growth Public Infrastructure Policy Act. I don't know if that's a DHCR form or how they typically do that. And I don't think that's a question. That's not a question on the secret form, is it?
No. I think that has to do with their own rating schedule.
Yeah, I mean, it's a requirement for some of the funding approvals and things, but I'm just, at the top of my head, I don't recall that being a box on the secret form to check.
No, I think that has to do with their state agency.
Yeah, oh, that's right. And then the last one is interesting. They've got a, submit a site suitability analysis per HCR requirements, which includes analysis of proximate rail lines and highway noise and traffic and air emissions. So I think that for secret purposes is also pretty good, but why is it just rail lines? I guess, because that was one of the issues that the planning board had raised, is access to public transportation, so, along those lines.
Sure. That's no problem. We will go and put that together.
Yeah, and just that full site plan would be great.
Thank you. I had forgotten that. I appreciate that.
We could read.
Yes.
To see, yeah, that would be definitely helpful.
Big enough to see.
And should we, or do we need to schedule your next appearance date?
We can get you this information first and come back next month and discuss, maybe discuss further, and then thank you for offering, but we're more than willing to wait.
Okay.
A little bit, and get you these questions and make sure your questions are answered before we go to a public hearing.
Sure.
But thank you.
Thank you.
Let me clean up. You had me jumping through all my paper here, so give me a
So do you-
second to clean that up.
So Neil, do you want to schedule a date now, or do you want to wait for the submission to schedule a date?
I'd love to submit again. And
Okay.
maybe come back one more time, if it's okay with you all.
Sure.
And just make sure you don't have further questions, and then, yes, maybe we can wrap up seeker and have a public hearing. That would be great.
Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate your time. I know there's a lot that,
Thank you. We have a busy night tonight.
thanks again.
You're welcome.
Hey, at least it didn't snow again. At least it didn't snow, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's snow or rain or wind or whatever. So, right, so I guess next on the agenda tonight would be, I have a motion to adjourn.
No, I want to talk some more.
Well, you're gonna be alone.
Yes. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second it. Close it.
All in favor, so moved. We
Wait,
are
did you make a
adjourned.
motion? I don't know if you made the motion.